predator class is a word I like better than elite, because elite makes them sound kind of cool. Predator class calls them what they are. And
exactly. Or parasite class, one of the two. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you have dealt with a lot of suppression and with censorship. So I'm glad you talked about that. And you brought up a point I wanted to bring us forward to the explosion of the Crimean bridge that just happened. There were all kinds of memes, right? Celebrating this and making fun of it. And one thing that really struck me was NPR did a piece yesterday. I think it was yesterday, the day before, and we're basically twisting themselves in a pretzel, so to speak. And this is NPR is kind of like, it's public broadcasting. So it's like BBC in England or whatever. But they were saying how that the memes were necessary for the Ukrainians to process what they're doing, and they're as old as Soviet times, and they were just like making all these excuses for the fact that these people were celebrating that 3 civilians were killed in a terrorist attack. And I just kind of wanted your perspective on what you saw after that explosion took place on that infrastructure.
Well, I mean, having, covered events in Syria and having lived here for 3 years and worked here for 7 years, it doesn't surprise me at all that the West is glorifying what is effectively either a suicide bomber or an outright terrorist attack, right? But I think for me, this is part of a very worrying trend where Nazism is being normalized in front of our eyes, right? In 2016, all of the media were united in admitting there is a Nazi problem, there is a fascist problem in Ukraine. Now that has completely disappeared. NYT is showcasing Azov battalion fighters hugging their wives. They're being met with in Congress, I believe, right? They're probably being given a platform on various media outlets in the West. The Daily Mail ran an article the other day describing how Ukrainians were hunting collaborators, their word, like pigs and killing them. We then have an Azov Nazi publishing on his Telegram account a video of civilians with their hands tied being executed and thrown into a sandpit. He then changes the wording of his Telegram post because it received too much attention on social media to claiming that they found it on an occupier's mobile phone. Well, too late, Sonny Jim. We'd already seen what you put and what you were crowing about on your Telegram channel. And I saw Yahoo News today putting something out about an Azov battalion fighter is about to have a baby with his wife. This is like a complete normalization process for child killers to turn them into, family men. I mean, it's just extraordinary. The Sun in the UK running wanted posters for Putin, who would mind if he's assassinated. I mean, we've just entered into some hideous dystopian world where in Syria, Al-Qaeda and ISIS were being flaunted as rebels and democracy freedom fighters, and now we have Nazis, literal Nazis, being whitewashed and entertained in the halls of power in the West, right? We're training them in the UK. We're militarily training them in the UK. I mean, our grandparents must be, if they're still alive, they must be weeping. If they're dead, God bless them, they must be turning in their grave. This isn't what they fought for.
No.
We didn't fight to have a world that is controlled by fascists and by Nazis and by terrorists and extremists of whatever ilk, right? But this is what they're foisting on us. It's extraordinary.
It is. It's how, and in fact, they just, you brought up a really good point, several good points, but one of them was, they just brought up a photo of a general with the Ukrainian military with a Nazi emblem. I mean, they don't hide it. They don't even hide it.
No, they're proud of it. They're proud of it.
To airbrush some of the Nazi insignia off, and then they gave up airbrushing, right?
No, but
Because
I mean, the thing is now they're proud of it. They're not
Mhm.
even trying to hide it anymore. And, by the way, for people to understand, when 2014 happened and you had the massacre in Odessa and the lesser known massacre in Mariupol, right? Bulgarians and Romanians and non-Ukrainian nationals, but living in Ukraine, who protested against the ethnic cleansing program against the Eastern Russian-speaking communities, were themselves detained and executed and tortured. Zelensky has been running a program of disappearing his opposition, of persecution of the Communist Party inside, so of his political opposition inside Ukraine, basically killing, murdering media that were not agreeing with his point of view. This has been ongoing for years, right? Even pre-Zelensky, this has been going on. This isn't something new. But, the way the West spins it, Russia's the bad guy, they're the good guy, but people fall for it again. Like, how many times in history do we have to have this narrative?
It's true. It's true. I mean, it's kind of repeating itself and feeding on itself. And Victoria Nuland is still in a position of power, even though she committed, in my opinion, she committed war crimes with her involvement in what she did. Julian Assange bravely exposed those war crimes, and for that, he's now in Belmarsh prison and
Exactly.
to be extradited to the U.S., as everyone knows. And he just was diagnosed with COVID, and he already has a lung disease. So, I'm really hoping that they drop the case against Julian Assange. But and a lot of people would be happy if they did, but so far that's not occurred.